The Building Brands Marketing Podcast is dedicated to exploring the journeys of industry leaders who have successfully built a brand. Join me, Robert Breuer, president of Building Brands Marketing, and an entrepreneur who's successfully scaled multiple brands as we dive deep into the strategies, challenges, and insights that have shaped the success of industry leaders and provide you with the resources you need to do the same. Building Brands Marketing is a full-service marketing agency specializing in crafting customized marketing strategies for service-based businesses with a creative powerhouse to drive real results. Welcome to the Building Brands Podcast. All right, welcome to the Legal Leaders series of the Building Brands Podcast. I'm very excited today to have Tad Nelson, owner and attorney with Tad Law. Welcome, Tad.
I'm glad to be here. How you doing, man?
I am doing fantastic. Excited to have you on the show. You know, I'm really excited about this one. We had some great kind of prep conversations here, and I have a feeling we're going to dig into some really useful nuggets today. So let's just jump right in, okay? So you're not too far from me. I'm here in Victoria. You're in the Galveston area, correct, Tad?
I'm in Leak City. I'm literally 7 blocks away from the Harris County, Galveston County line.
Yeah, you're right down the road there. So your firm stands out for offering big city experience with small town values. So tell me, how has this approach shaped your client relationships and brand reputation over the years, Tad?
Well, I think it's really benefited us. And the reason is like, even where I'm sitting right now, we're in a little historical house in the old part of town. You know, I never really wanted to be in a glass building. I never wanted to take an elevator 15 floors to get to my office. You know, I never wanted that. I mean, that is so sterile to me. Now, and granted, I have a lot of friends that are doing it, and they have gorgeous offices. I mean, you know,
Sure.
buku money they spent on it. But I just never wanted that. You know, we have a little gravel parking lot in the back. You know, you walk in, it's a little home. We actually have 2 little houses. We got, some of the staff in one of them, and then right next to us is a second house, so they're old and they're small. They're right there in the old part of town. You know, ultimately, from the very beginning, there is nothing intimidating about coming here. I mean, dealing with a crime, being charged with a crime, or going through a divorce, which are the 2 primary things we do, are very intimidating. So immediately we start knocking that down, and so the fact then we know our stuff. So we've got the big city experience, but we treat you like you're a friend. We treat you, different than a client. You're brought in here. You're allowed to sit around. You're allowed to, ask more questions. We've never made it feel like, that's a mark, and we don't want that.
Yeah.
We consider ourselves, we're lawyers. Don't get me wrong. But we consider ourselves in basically the customer service industry, and our deal is not so much to get them the result, but for get them from the day we meet them until the time of the result, more so than just the result.
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes a lot of sense. The specialty that you practice in the criminal and family law side is highly emotional. It can be an incredibly emotional process, and I think having those, kind of small town values can really make the comfortability a lot, a lot more comfortable.
Sure.
But I think, I would like to dive a little bit deeper into, talk to me about some of the brand components. I mean, you've been in business a long time, doing a lot of work over there in Southeast, greater Houston Metro. What is it that makes your firm incredibly unique, Tad?
Well, for one, we, especially in Galveston, as you work more in Houston, there's a whole bunch of us running around in Houston, a bunch of great lawyers, bunch of great DWI lawyers, and we don't touch family law in Houston. We just do our criminal and our DWI, and which, we hold our own, we try big cases, we do what we have to do. But now when you come to Galveston, when the county seat is actually Galveston, in Galveston County. I graduated from Galveston Ball. My parents graduated from Galveston Ball. I mean, My partner Amber, she graduated from Galveston Ball. Her parents graduated from Galveston and Kerwin. So I mean, we've just been around forever. Our families have been around forever. Um, I would say, not 50%, but pretty close of the people that hire us know us from somewhere. They know our families, they know our histories, they know stuff like that. Um, and so we already have that one, that one foot in the door kind of thing. And then the fact that we literally do, I mean, from the time you start reaching out to us, we try to make your journey as, I mean, as simple on you you know, as relaxing as calm as possible. Not that you can make criminal law that calming, but as
Sure.
long when you do notice when somebody is literally, trying to, when people come here, the average person that leaves a console, they're given my cell and said, hey, as scared as you are, I get it. You're probably going to get down the street. You're going to think of something new. Text me tonight. Let's talk again if you have anything else that needs to be covered, or if you forget, or if your wife needs to know. It's the little things that constantly remind them that, hey, this firm is not only worried about my result, but they're worried about my sanity getting to my result. And I think that's our, I mean, because it's such a priority here, and we've made it a priority for so long. I think it becomes second nature.
Yeah, one of the things I got in talking with you is, you're real just cool natured, seem like a regular guy and not too stiff of a lawyer, right? And I think that, you come off like a guy that would be enjoyable to sit at a bar and drink a beer with, like
Sure.
it seems like you talk beside the table and not across the table to people, which I'm
Yeah,
sure, it means a lot in those two kind of emotionally volatile situations of law. So let's take a pivot for a second. And
sure.
one thing that I really enjoyed in talking with you leading up to this show was learning a little bit about your client success manager role that you've implemented into the client journey. So can you talk to me a little bit about that, how that's impacted client experience and what lessons or takeaways that you learned from it?
Well, like I said when I was talking to you earlier, I've made some big changes. And I'll tell you a little story. This is kind of entertaining, because I've since our talk, actually, I've talked to other lawyers about this. And I'm 60. I turned 60 in June. So, it's funny when you look back at other lawyers that, good lawyers, and as they get older, in 55, 60, and you often, looking back, I can remember the really good lawyers, and I'd look at them like, they're losing it. That
Mm-hmm.
seems like so and so who's a great trial is losing it. And you know what? In retrospect, they weren't losing it. They just weren't changing. They were the same. They were the exact same person at age 60 that they were at 45 or were at 40. And the reality of it is, so at 60, they would have so much to offer. But I'm sorry, you can't have, desktops from 30 years ago in the office. You can't have a shitty phone system. You can't, not have the most up to date research equipment. I mean, and that's what the deal is. These lawyers, even though they're getting older, they would have so much to offer if they would just modernize and stay with the
Mm-hmm.
program. Hey, buy some modern clothes, some modern furniture, get with the times. And that's what I think has been, so much with me. And that's what brought me to the client success manager. You know, we got more business, we got a lot of stuff going on. And if you look though, and if you've talked to enough lawyers, I know you have, what's the
Mm-hmm.
number one complaint? I can't find my lawyer. I can't talk to him. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, accessibility, definitely.
Exactly. So why not, get somebody, pay them 75, 80,000 and make their only job. I mean, they are an adult handholder. I mean, they are nothing to do than get somebody through the system, keep them informed. And that's, my theory here at the office. If we do anything, if we do anything on anybody's file, copy it and send it to them in an email. Why wouldn't you be proud of everything you did? I mean, if you send an email to the DA, tell them, send your client a deal. Hey, send an email to the DA. I'll let you know what he says. I mean, you stay on their
Dad,
mind.
Tad, I have to interrupt you. I am so sorry, but you hit a critical component. Proactive communication is so critical with service based businesses. I try to preach this not just to law firms, but business owners in general, even my own staff. Proactive communication, even when it is negative communication, when I have bad news for you, the client will appreciate it when you are telling them first before they ask, because usually when you're doing that, even if it's bad news, you're telling them this is the bad news, but this is the resolution step or the action step that we're taking to overcome this, this hurdle or this obstacle. Proactive communication, I love that.
Absolutely. And what really helped me and Amber realize it is, we both go to the same dentist. And starting about 30 days out, we're getting these texts, like every other day. Are you coming? Confirm. Even if you've confirmed once, you got to confirm again. But it lets you know that they're ready for you. They know you're coming. And even to something like that. And that just really got me thinking, you need, anything we do, we remind the client, let them know, make, the client success manager is always there to talk to them, always there to make sure they know they have their appointments, always there to invite them to come read their offense reports, go through their videos, is constantly there. They're getting emails. There's very seldom a week goes by that they don't get a communication, so they never feel like they've lost touch. Because one of the biggest things, especially in Galveston County, where we have indirect filing, where you get
Mm-hmm.
arrested and you might not have a court date for 9 weeks. There's so many times that clients used to say, well, I haven't talked to you in 9 weeks. You didn't give me anything. Well, we can erase
Mm-hmm.
that. you know we make sure now, even at the beginning when there's really nothing to do, we at least reach out and say, hey, we sent a request. Here's that 3914 request. We're asking for all your stuff. The second we get it, it's really, you might not have anything for them, but they know that you're out there doing something for them, you
Yeah,
know and it
absolutely.
resonates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's going to increase your client retention ratio. Less clients are going to drop because they're feeling like they're getting the communication. It's so
Yeah.
critical. You're right. And there's something else you touched on there. It's actually a core value of ours at Building Brands Marketing, and so I really like it. We list it as, or we call it, embracing change. Embracing change is so critical. If you look at all of the most successful companies across, across the entire field of all industries, they all adapted and evolved over time, and they didn't just keep doing the same thing. When you keep doing the same thing forever, it really limits your ceiling. So I like
Mm.
the idea of, embracing that change, willing to take a step back and go, hey, I know I've done it like this for 20 years and I've been really successful like that. But hey, maybe we could do this and this would improve our quality. That is marketing. Like, a lot of people, I think, when they think about marketing, they immediately think advertising, and advertising is an extension or a component of marketing, but marketing is really thinking through the entire client experience, and not just the acquisition experience, but the retention experience,
Yeah.
which is what is the client experience after you close them. So I love that, Tad. That's great.
Yeah. And then once you talk about retention, I mean, the world we live in today. I mean, uh, it's retention. It's also, are they going to go out and promote you? Are they going to carry your water for you? You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you can double the amount of people, I mean, or if you're getting 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20, 1 out of 30 clients to write you a 5-star review, if you can double or triple that, I mean, everybody's going to Google. They are looking for your 5-star reviews, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what I preach here. Getting a 5-star review, uber important in today's world. I mean, it's crazy that we can sit here and say that, but that 5-star review starts from the first day you meet them, you
I,
know, and it's not contingent just on the final result.
Absolutely. And I've talked to so many attorneys that are on more of the B2B side rather than the B2C side, like a criminal law attorney. And they sometimes don't quite understand the importance of those 5-star reviews because, let's say a big commercial litigation firm, they get a lot of referrals from other attorneys, and that's basically all of their book of
Hmm.
business. However, I think that, they could sometimes even increase that referral flow if some of those referring attorneys were able to go across the web and find more social proof rather than just the word of mouth referral. So I haven't seen a time yet that a lot of 5-star reviews negatively impacted a brand.
No.
And so, like, I think that's so critical. And there's so much software out here now I teach a workshop called Scaling the Unscalable, and part of one of the components of the secret sauce is using automation software to automate some of these review requests
Mhm.
in dynamic or humanized formats. We have a software we use, but there's a bunch of them out here. So talking about software and you know the digital footprint, so to speak, I want to talk a little bit about some of our conversation that we had prior to the show, where you talked to me about revamping your marketing approach kind of recently,
Yeah.
embracing some more video content and digital strategies like the Google reviews. Give me some key takeaways from that shift and how it's impacted your firm's growth.
Well, like I said, about 6 months ago, I went to that seminar and saw so many things I wasn't doing. It was funny. There's one guy who basically his whole job is he goes from firm to firm and he kind of looks under the hood and tells them what they're screwing up. And he talked about he went to this firm and he goes back in like 180 days and see how they're implementing stuff. And the firm really hadn't made a lot of changes. And he was like talking to the owner of the firm, and it was clearly that the office manager, wasn't wanting to make the changes. And as he was
Mm-hmm.
telling the story, he was just watching me just mouth words, and I was basically saying names. Every time he had a story about somebody in the office, I had somebody so similar. And so the guy comes up to me and he says, "Why don't you sit with me at lunch? I saw you saying some things." And we started talking about my firm. He asked me like 7 or 8 questions. And he looked at me and he goes, "I guarantee you," he goes, "whatever you're making, you're leaving 30, 40% on the table minimum." And he said, "I might even be low on that." So the first thing I did after that seminar was go get some major improvement on software, on client retention software, intake
Mm-hmm.
software. We switched over to a software called Lawmatics, pairs software called Abacus, and they've got a new one called Claret. Both of them are crap. I mean, any lawyer that's ever listening to this, do not use Abacus, do not use Claret. They're horrible, worst service ever. The people are horrible. I mean, oh my God. But the Lawmatics people have been amazing. And to be honest, he probably was low on the deal. So once we stopped the leakage on the intake, then all of a sudden you have, this extra money. So we've started putting it in, and at the same time, so I'm trying to fix everything. I mean, in addition to put my finger in the holes in the boat, I'm willing to try these things that finally people have been telling me to do. Like I'm sure you've heard, you probably preach it. I mean, it's all about video these days. If you're going to be online, you better use video. And I've been
Yep.
hearing that from my internet people, SEO people, as well as some of my social people, that you got to do this stuff. And finally, I said, okay, I'll do it. And it's just taken off like wildfire. I mean, it has been. I've watched the numbers go up. I've watched the calls go up. I've watched uh, everything they said is accurate. I mean, it's. I mean, I guess you guys know what you're talking about. The guys
Yeah.
that, I mean, and it's true. And
The,
and then as you do it, anybody that's filmed anything, if you look back, I mean, I don't care where you are in your filming life. If you look back to your first 2 weeks of filming, it's crap. You know, I mean, it you watch it get better as you do it. You know what I'm saying? Every
sure,
week,
sure.
every attempt, it gets better because your early stuff, I don't care who you are, it's bad.
Well, and the challenge is that it can sometimes be uncomfortable. I mean, me personally, I don't enjoy listening to myself. I don't enjoy watching myself. I also know it's a critical piece of what I do for a living. So I have to learn how to embrace it and grit my
Yeah,
teeth and work through it. Uh,
yeah,
and while there's some attorneys that might enjoy listening or watching themselves, it's not everybody. And so I think it brings up a really good point. And there's two things I want, kind of dig deeper. And the first thing is, what's interesting about what you've done is you do have the analytics and the reporting capabilities to dive in to really better assess the return on investment, both with your conversion analytics on your web analytics, but also,
mhm,
call tracking and things of that
sure,
nature, to track the phone calls. So that's helpful because you're not sort of just, shooting in the dark and then following the old, hey, I'm going to ask every person when they come in, how did you hear about me? And they mentioned the last place that, last thing they saw, even though there was 6 or 7 touches along the way from a
sure,
brand
sure, sure.
standpoint. But also the other thing is that when I think about video social media strategy, media buys in general, whether it's billboards, TV, programmatic TV, all of these. I constantly just hear space, and really it comes down to the message. What is the message that you're putting in there, and how is it going to resonate to your audience? Well, first and foremost, you have to define who is your audience, and not
Mm.
just, oh, anybody that's got a DWI, right? Like how often people say that. They say, oh yeah, anyone that's going through a divorce, that's going to be a family law case for me. But more so, I find when you define a target persona, an individual niche of people that you're talking to, it the message will resonate a lot stronger. So I want to dive into what we talked about that was really interesting. Is your firm has multiple partners. You touched on it earlier, how you have two people, you and your partner. So when new clients come in, rather than dividing them strictly by specialty, you kind of have different personalities to adapt to serve whatever type of personality type comes in from a client standpoint. So tell me how this flexible approach to multiple partners has helped improve client satisfaction.
Well, at the end of the day, Amber, who's my partner, we don't assign files. We never have. So like any file any day could be mine, any day any file could be hers. When
Mm-hmm.
depending on and it's like you said, it's both ways. Sometimes my personality, it's a guy who's 60 that plays golf, or it might not be the personality of the client that matters. It might be the personality of the DA or
Mm-hmm.
the person on the other side of the family law case. I can tell you if there's an old DA that I've played golf with, obviously I'm going to handle that. I'm going to be the one working out. Amber's a middle-aged mom, 46. She has a 7-year old. If it's a DA with a mom, she's probably going to have more to talk to them about or have a better relationship with. And nowadays, you know, I can't, I can't really imagine, back, I can remember back when I was a DA, you know, if somebody was going to talk to me, if a defense lawyer probably was going to talk to me during, 9 to 5, during work
Mm-hmm.
hours. Nowadays, we're texting DAs weekends at nights, I mean, there's conversations going back and forth, and it may be, hey, I'm asking you about the Gomez case. Hey, you want to play golf tomorrow? Those kind of things,
Mm-hmm.
so, you just, it really is funny where, you don't know where work ends and, social begins, but that, that makes it a lot easier. It's a lot different than what you're seeing on TV. In real life, you know, it's not as adversarial as one might think. But when you mix it up for a trial, it's a different gig. But there's so much. 98% of our 99% of our work is nothing more than selling potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the big gripe. It's no different than going to the Walmart. I'm going to pay a price and I'm going to get an item. You know, I don't have to have an argument to get it. And the majority of our stuff is going to be just like that. There's a price on everything. A DA has a price on everything. I'm going to try to nickel and dime them a little bit and get it, and maybe there's something wrong with the case, or bad bananas, throw them out, what have you, get my money back, that kind of stuff. But it's so um, you know, everything is so relation concentric, and that's why we do it this way. You know,
Tad, you hit the nail on the head. I was talking earlier, and a lot of the listeners are probably aware of the workshop I teach, Scaling the Unscalable for Service Based Businesses. The last extension of it is the secret sauce, and the secret sauce is relationships. Service based businesses are in a relationship business. And one of the things that you touched on that I really love, and I talk to college students about this as well when I speak at the university and in the college here, is um, we must embrace the fact that our personal brand is very interconnected to our corporate brand. We get into this. Some people, we come out of college and we get into this mindset of, hey, this work life balance, and the two are going to be separate. And I'm going to go from 8 to 5 and then clock out, and I'm going to have my life and then clock in tomorrow morning. Service based businesses, we do not have that luxury. They're very interconnected. So I love that you understand relationships are the most critical marketing piece to a service-based business, and particularly law firms. It's been a big part of your success. I can tell that. Anything else you want to say on that before we move along?
well, I will tell you the one thing, taking it one step further with with your employees. Um, you know, what we're doing now with our employee, the number one thing when we're, because we've just gone through our hiring, we've just, bringing in two more people. In addition to talking to them and looking at them, we ultimately, the way we did it is I sent them an email, and I sent them, every, and this is all created in the last year since I've really upped my game. So I basically have a vivid vision for my firm, what I expect of my firm.
Hmm.
So the people that we were trying to interview, I sent them my vision. I said, hey, I need you to send me back. Get on your iPhone. I want a 30 to 60-second video of why you're going to enhance that. You know, and I got that before we hired. I mean, I needed to hear them tell me what they could do to benefit us, because they're going to be treated well here, you know. And then the
Sure.
next thing that we did that's really interesting, I think you'd enjoy, is when they got here, I let them know that during their first 90 days, I mean, I expect them to read 3 books. And the number one book they're going to read, there's one on the process communication model. That's the second book. But the number one book to read, it's called Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. Most amazing book you've ever read. And it just talks about how you have no other job than to make the person you're serving their life as good as you can make it, And if you look at that, like everything you're doing is based on satisfying that person's needs, wants, desires, you can't lose.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And you hit on another critical piece, which is talent retention. Service-based businesses, law firms, it's super critical. The people are part of the whole business model. And so anything we can do to improve that talent retention and be sure we get the right fits in the first place are going to result in a better end result to the clients. So I really like that. So all right, this has been great, Tad. This has been wonderful. So I'm going to venture out on a limb and guess you've built a very successful multi-million-dollar law firm, probably, and you're continuing to scale. What advice would you give other attorneys who are looking to grow their practice while maintaining quality and a strong brand identity?
Well, the number one thing when you realize it is you got to figure out who you are. And like you've always heard the phrase, you got to dance with the girl that brung you. Um, there's an old joke, that you know, when you go to trial, you gotta be yourself. And then the joke is, unless you're losing, then you got to be somebody else. But hopefully you're not, because you really do have to be true to yourself, and you've got to decide what you want to be, and then you got to be that. You got to be it well. And like with me, as far as we're talking about how we scaled, is we decided, that we wanted to be a service first law firm, which is a little different than other ones, because so many people, you worry about the product, and that's big. Don't get me wrong, because you could never do any of these other things if the product is crap.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of people with amazing product that can't do this. They couldn't grow it faster than a taco truck. You know what I mean? Because they
Mm-hmm.
don't understand the skills it takes. And once you're doing it, you almost have to reverse engineer it. I mean, you don't make X, you decide you want to make X, and then you figure out what the numbers are. Like if I want to make, if I want to take a 2 million a year business and move it up to 4 million, and I'm at 40%, advertising, well, I just realized I just better go from 800,000 to 1.6 million, you know, it's that
Mm-hmm.
simple. And then if, the your employees take another 30%, well, you better ramp that up too. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's just math, you know, and I mean it really isn't anything but math. Now, obviously, if you're young, you don't want to jump in the deep end. You want to go slower or what have you, and that's up to whoever. But anybody that's ever scaled up a business, if you're not making moves that make you nervous or get your blood flowing, shame on you, right? Isn't that what makes the
Yeah.
moves fun? I mean, and you know what? How many? And if you're not, if it doesn't get your heart going, it's not worth doing anyway. Anytime I've you add an employee here, 2 employees there, hire another lawyer. I mean, that gets you thinking. Well, I got to do this, that, and the other thing. Well, do it. I mean, there's not one employment decision I've ever made that was worked out against me, and every one of them to this day has made me nervous. But they
Yeah.
should.
Yeah, yeah, and all you can do is just learn every step of the way, take another risk, learn again. I love that, Tad. This has been incredible, and I'm going to have you on the show again sometime. So tell me, Tad, where can we find you online?
I'm at tadlaw.com, and we're all over. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We're on all of them, but our website is tadlaw.com.
Tad, thanks again. And thank you to our listeners or viewers for watching or listening to the Building Brands podcast. Like, share, and subscribe if you like what you heard today. And thanks again, Tad, for being here. Enjoyed it.
You bet, Robert. It was awesome. Thank you.